When you got that feedback, which hurts in the moment, it usually hurts just means it's outside of my own view of myself, or like the space that I give myself to be as complex that I am. I can be a big gift to people, and I can be a selfish prick. That takes courage to go find out, even if it's like quote unquote bad news. It takes a lot of courage to do that, and that's you actually being what I hear you saying. You're calling people into being, which is to be curious and to have this growth mindset. That's an opportunity to get a return on pain. Most people are going to run from pain and not want to get a return. But if I go learn something, I've got a huge return. I haven't wasted the pain.
Are you willing to see the actual impact you are having with the people on your team? Well, my friend, it's time to take off those rose-colored glasses. Hello, my friends. My name is Chad, and this is the Naked Leadership Podcast, high-stakes conversations for relentless company founders. My co-hosts and I have over 6 decades of combined experience in leadership coaching, and this podcast is where we explore it all. There is no conversation too risky. This week, Adrian, Dan, and I sit down with Nesha Pai. Nesha is the founder of a successful and very niche accounting firm. Yes, like all other CPAs, she supports company founders as they navigate the ever-daunting world of finance and fiscal health for their organization, but she does it with an intentional twist. We talk a bit about that twist in this conversation. I must warn you though, this is not a conversation just about finances. In fact, it's very little bit about finances, but a deep dive into the messiness of being a company founder with a vision that drives you to the lengths you didn't even know existed. And you probably didn't believe that you had it in you to go those lengths. We explore one of Nesha's greatest mistakes in her leadership that resulted in losing 2 of her team members. When we have guests on this podcast, I have zero interest in this being a nicely packaged conversation about how they went through some challenges, but now everything is perfect, rainbows, unicorns, and sunshine. I'm only interested in the real and authentic experience of being a company founder, which is making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and getting up again. Don't worry, at the end of the conversation, she does give insight to the most common mistakes she sees founders make in their corporate finances. So you'll want to stay tuned for that as well. Let's dive in. Adrian, Dan, it's so good to be with you today.
Yeah, so glad to be here.
Great to be back.
I'm so excited for our conversation today. We have a very special guest. This has been a long time coming, I believe. Nesha, it's so good to have you on the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Man, I am honored, and I just feel so blessed. So thank you for having me. Really.
Of course. The honor is ours. It's fun because Nesha and I went through the same Revenant together last year, June.
We did.
And that was a fun time. We made some discoveries together, didn't we?
We did, and I think we developed, it's funny, you are bonded with the people in that room for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
And for
That's
people,
true.
maybe if this happens to be your first time listening to the Naked Leadership Podcast, the Revenants are like our 4-day personal leadership accelerant process. It only happens 3 to 4, between 2 and 4 times a year. So anyway, that's what they're describing. It's this boot camp for the soul, I call it. Anyway, so these 2 were together in that.
Amazing.
I was going to leave it a top secret, Okay,
erase everything I just said. Never mind.
You have no idea what we're talking about.
You don't know what it is, and you can't come.
Do the Willy Wonka. Strike that, reverse it.
That's right. So let's dive in. I want to utilize all the time we have with you, Nesha. There's so much to get to. I want to, if you would, just take a minute right at the top of the conversation and just give a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What are you up to? What do you believe in? Anything that is valuable or pertinent that you think we should understand?
Yeah, thank you. Nesha Pai here, based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I own a small CPA practice, which was ahead of its time. 12 years ago, I founded it. And I founded it based on a remote workforce, which really wasn't popular back then, and to hire stay-at-home moms or women, really to support women. And so I left a boss. I was 40 years old, and I walked out on a job and a boss who told me I wasn't good enough to get the raise that I came in to get because I had a mom gap in my resume. And I remember that day clearly. And I quit on the spot, kind of a Jerry Maguire moment. And I walked out thinking, all right, I'm going to do this on my own. But if I'm going to do this on my own, I want it to be really big. And what I mean by big is not just monetarily, but I want to leave a big impact.
Uh-huh.
And so I came out here believing in several things. One is that our purpose on this earth is to make an impact. It is to serve. It is to walk in our purpose. And also it is our responsibility as people, or even especially as leaders, to be emotionally intelligent, to constantly be doing the work. And so that's what I've been doing over the last 12 years to build this practice and to go for my dreams. I'm a big dreamer.
So there's so much interesting there already. So you
Yes,
say
I know.
you say it was
questions.
it was ahead of its time. Why do you say that?
Because I'm in the South, so I need to give context here. I'm in the good old boy network of the South. And when I left my firm, I really couldn't afford an office, right? I couldn't, that was the reason I became remote. I was a single mom, and I said, okay, well, I've got to do this remotely from home. And so I created a remote work environment and hired people in this remote work environment. And I had colleagues, older white male CPA, that whole stigma, that I had colleagues laugh at me. I had colleagues actually make fun of me, right? They didn't understand what I was doing. They didn't understand the niche I was in. They didn't understand how I was remote. They thought it was a weird concept. And so it was not popular. It was unheard of here. And so that's kind of what I mean by that.
So you were COVID before COVID was cool.
Yeah. So when COVID hit, I turned around to the firms and I said, y'all need some help, maybe some guidance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just picturing you, leaving the firm with two birds in the air. Were there two birds in the air when you were leaving?
Shoot.
Flipping people off?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, interesting. I have two sides of my brain. So one was like, what the fuck did you just do? Can I say that? What the hell did you just do? I'm like, what did I just do? Like, I'm shaking myself. I walked out on a job. I have a mortgage. I have a kid. And then the other side of me was going,
yeah.
Oh man, like, wouldn't it be cool if you had these colors in your logo? And
Sure.
you can totally do this, right? Like, so it was like, it was like both sides of my brain were like,
Sure.
at it with each other. And, but I walked out knowing two things. I would never want another human. I say man, but human. I would never want another human to dictate or limit who I was. And that was the second time that happened in my career. So I was done. When I walked out, I was done. And I said, I'm going to be the person to control or dictate how much money I made, what I did, how I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting? Like if you actually decide it's the second one is so, the first one's not even possible.
Mm.
Like if I'm committed to
Yeah.
crafting my own path, making my own money, generating my own possibilities, all that, then nobody can ever manipulate or dominate me, whether it's a male or a female or
Right.
your dead uncle or whatever, is happening.
right.
Like nothing out there can. If I make that choice. I was curious about, you said when you left, you knew you wanted to make an impact. Well, how did that come about? And I don't know if it was like you're walking out and you're on your way to the car, it hit you in that moment, or if it was something in that process. But that's a pretty big jump from, oh shit, I just lost my job, to I want to make a big impact. Like those don't necessarily for everybody. Most people, they don't go
Especially
together.
in your field.
Well, that's
especially in
really
your
possible.
field. How many CPAs are saying, I want to make an impact?
Right. And today's tax day, by the way. Did you file your taxes?
Well, you
Don't
tell
You're
remind
a
me.
CPA. Did we file them?
you tell me, Nesha.
Right. Okay. So great question, because I had watched in my time at that firm, and I was there for 5 years post my mom gap. I had watched a certain sector of the small business get neglected, and they were neglected because they weren't the firm's target client. They weren't bringing enough revenue to them, but it was a very big small business population. And I watched this neglect, and I remember having client relationships and them saying like, your manager or your partner like hasn't responded to me, or I got this big bill. And so it was this constant complaining from the clients, valid complaining that I would hear. And so when I walked out, I said, I'm going to take care of that part of the population. And that's who is going to value me. And that is who I'm going to make an impact with.
Claire. Well, so to kind of back to Adrian's question, how do you see yourself making the impact, and what is the impact you long to make on this audience?
Oh, God, you guys asked like really good questions. The impact I want to make is twofold. One is a lot of small business owners, they're afraid of the numbers side of their business. They don't understand the number side of their business. And it's something that might be holding them back in business growth or even self-growth. And I want to empower them, right? I want to empower them.
And you're helping us because we're, like you said, we have a pretty complex revenue model, and being able to understand the numbers and the way we've been keeping the books has been difficult and really a strain on our accounting department. Well, and you're coming in and really helping that.
Thank you. Yeah. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing these incredibly creative, smart, brilliant, talented businesses and business owners. And then their back offices look like garbage. And I'm like, let's get that to mirror.
Well, hold on, Nesha. Hold on.
I can own that.
I'm not saying any names or any businesses here. I'm saying in general. And I'm like,
of course.
I say,
let's get that to mirror the front end, right? The shiny front, what you're serving, what you're selling. Like, let's mirror that. And so that's a huge passion for me.
Well, I was just, Allie and I do this Marriage Mondays thing, and the one we posted yesterday. Thank you. The one we posted yesterday was a conversation. We field questions from her crew, and one of them was about finances. And we did this thing about finances and talked a little bit about that. At least on my post, most folks have been responding to something I said, which was finances aren't complicated. The emotions around them are.
Bingo. Mm-hmm.
And it seems like this. I'd love to, because there's people that are listening that probably feel a little bit convicted, a little bit squirmy. They might have already turned off the podcast because it got a little too close to home. Like, what is if you're still here, hey guys, what do you feel like people are thinking to justify that phenomenon? Like, what are they, when you meet folks and there's got maybe a great service, great business externally, but behind the scenes, it's a shit show. What do you think people are thinking in order to kind of justify that chaos or that, distinction?
Yeah. So the excuses are, I don't have time. I just, it freaks me out. I'm afraid. And it's like an avoidance almost of it, typical to what you do. It's avoidance of facing something that's scary to them. And it could relate to, money is emotional. So it could relate to how they were brought up and raised around money. It could be, did they have the scarcity mindset, so they just don't want to face it. They can't face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they can't, or they don't want to be in the way that they typically face it. Let me slow that down. They don't want to be in the way. They don't want to keep being the way that they normally face it, which is, this is complicated. This is hard. My parents screwed me over. I don't understand. Blah, 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 blah. It won't be that bad. Everybody goes through this. Like, there's a handful of conversations that I'm assuming, and I've been in them. It's like I get in this way too. I think probably as a human, I've always just out-earned my spending. That's always been my goal. Just out-earn, and I'm pretty good at that. Just whatever. I don't have to budget things or pay that close attention. I just keep doing what I do and make it rain, baby, and we can go all day long. And which is I don't know. But the conversations people are in, they're stuck in the way that keep being the way they've been in the convo.
Yeah.
Tell me about when you engage with them, how do you help them see a new way of seeing?
That's awesome. Similar to what you guys teach or that I learned from your amazing Revenant Process and Impact series, I say to them, I'm like, you've built something amazing. And do you have a big vision for what you've built? And oftentimes it's like, sure, yeah. I'm like, do you know where you want to go with your business? Okay. Well, I know you're just out here working hard to just do the business and then die. So it's like, I want to help you. So let's see where the deficits are in your financials and how you're spending money. Are you willing to do that and have a conversation about it? And it comes back with a yes every time, because they wouldn't be seeking me. Businesses wouldn't be seeking me unless they wanted the help, right? And they wanted the advice, and they trusted me to give it to them and to help them. So, I'll say to somebody like, you're spending too much, or you're hurting yourself, or you are going against what you said you want. So it's almost like I'm their accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like their touchstone to reality, which they can avoid as long. I mean, I guess I think about the distinction of wants and needs a bunch. Because you work with people that want your help. There are a million times more people that need your help. And that's as a way that we put this out as a service. If folks are listening and thinking, I don't know how it's going. First off, there's plenty of people that are listening right now that are saying, "Oh God, that's me." And if that's you, give Nesha a call. If you're thinking, I don't know how good it could get, and I don't know if I have a great strategy, that's also a great place to give Nesha a call. Just explore. Explore what's possible, and want this to be a transparent conversation. That takes some faith from most people, because it's been something that's kind of, I'll take care of it later for a long time. So you'd have to reframe that and say, what if this was actually a place that gave me security? It gave me a sense of ownership. It gave me a sense of groundedness. And I know what's happening on my finances. I know that I can make payroll next month. I know these things. Well, it's going to take a whole different way of being in the conversation. That's why I dig what you're up to, because you're not there just being some kind of nerd in the corner counting shit. You actually care about the people.
Yes, deeply.
And you want their vision to happen. You deeply care. You want their vision. That's the only reason we work with you, because you do the whole 360. Like, I know you care about us. And we've had some fun engagement before. And we're bonded in that way. But you care about the person, you care about their vision, and like the sustaining of an effective model to make sure that everything's taken care of. That is, I was going to say secondary, and I guess it is. I don't know what do you think about that, but like, it is a way to support your vision, which is to support their vision.
Yes, that's, oh my God, so well said.
What are your thoughts about that?
God, so well said.
Okay.
When I first engage with somebody, I say to them, listen, I'm here to help you meet your goals, which means you agree to allowing me to be straight with you and upfront with you. And it may not be comfortable and it may not be easy, right? Similar to how you guys are in the coaching world. And, and they,
warning, disclaimer, this is about to get uncomfortable. It comes from love.
Right. And they agree to it. And, and we end up having tough conversations, just like you guys do with your clients. And it's received well because it's out of love. And I say to them, I'm like, I can't care any more about your business than you do. Right? I can't care any more about your business than you do.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I know we've always operated on a cash basis, and because old school, grew up in an Italian family, I love my numbers. But in the model that we have, there are so many different, we need to be on an accrual basis, but we didn't understand that. And then we had a couple of people trying to put us on it. And then we got sour about it, and you were very good in helping us rearrange our relationship.
We reversed it, and then we're like, "Whoa, we need to go back to it." Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I know for me, it's important because it's the first contact with reality. So if you're going to make any powerful shift, you got to be connected financially to which is telling you the value you're adding to the market, and are you hitting the people you think you're hitting, and are they liking the dog food? These are all questions that get answered in there, and it's very helpful. I mean, you bring people to a sober kind of recognition about here's where you are now. Now you can see how far you are from what you want, where you want to be, or at least on a monetary basis. But I'm interested when you speak, because you do a lot of speaking, and you do platform speaking. Tell me what the theme is when you speak to a group of people, because normally says, well, we're going to have Nesha come and talk about accounting, and people are like, is that what they say, or like, how do you approach it? What
funny.
do you talk about?
It's funny because I do have two sides of my speaking. One is like finance 101 for entrepreneurs, and the other is like mindset and all the touchy feely stuff, right? And but I make the accounting one fun, and I get a lot of great feedback from it. But it's like the theme that combines the two is overcoming. It's empowerment. It's like, let's get a fulfilling life. Let's be empowered in our numbers. Let's be empowered in our lives. And a lot of it's just overcoming the fear.
Yes, yeah, great. Overcoming like cognitive stuff, like how I'm relating to what I'm up to. Overcoming, like, what's the most common things you're working with people to overcome?
Maybe like overcome their fears, right? The fear of learning their numbers, looking at a balance sheet, looking at a P&L, or the fears of, oh, I'm stuck in this job, right? Or I hate my boss, and well, there are possibilities from that. Like, you don't have to be stuck in your job or sit and hate your boss,
Right. So as a founder, you're basically working with people to own what they want to have, their vision.
Bingo.
Got it.
There's something that's sticking out to me through all your answers. I mean, you're getting a few like financial questions, or what are we doing? What do you do for clients that's unique, or that sort of stuff? And the pattern I'm noticing, Nesha, is that every one of your answers comes back to their way of being.
Oh, interesting.
How they relate to how they relate to their finances and their accounting and all of that sort of stuff. That's really interesting to me. That's much more interesting to me, given the topic of our podcast, leadership. That's much more interesting to me than, do this A, B, and C. And I want to, at the end of our conversation, I want to ask you, give a couple of those points that you always give, maybe the three most problematic places you see businesses fail at their finances, or something like that. I'll let you decide what that is. But I really want to hear your perspective as a founder. Mm-hmm. So you have a team, correct?
I do.
Can you tell us about your team? Life is not fair. It's what you negotiate. Let me say that one more time. Life is not fair. It's what you negotiate. Now that's an interesting thought. If that's true, it means that everything you have in life right now, the possessions, the relationships, the fitness, the mindset, are all a product of your negotiations with others and yourself. And if that's true, wouldn't you want to be very clear on how you negotiate? What's effective and what's ineffective? What your strengths are and what your blind spots are? It is, after all, producing all the results in your life. So here's the deal. We put together a 15-question quiz that you can take in 5 minutes or less and find out exactly what your negotiation style is. The results of this quiz will give you insight into your strengths and blind spots in negotiation. It will also give you insight in how you can accentuate those strengths or compensate for the blind spots. Think for just 1 second with me all of the conversations you're having in your life. Think about compensation or advancement conversations with people on your team, discussing financial decisions with a partner, or just getting your kids to get their damn shoes on so that you can leave the house. All of these conversations are negotiations. This simple yet powerful tool has the potential to reinvent the way you get what you want in every aspect of life. Go to negotiation.takenewground.com right now, or click the link in the description of this episode and find out what negotiation style you embody. You can thank us later. Now back to the show.
Well, it's now down to 2 people. It was 6 because I hired several along the way. And this is a tough part of owning a business is managing people, right? We You guys have talked a lot about this.
Uh-huh.
And I have 2 strong people. In fact, one will have been with me for 10 years next month. And I'm like, you guys are unicorns. I'd love to replicate you, because if you did, we'd take over the world.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm out here looking. I'm still looking. I'm always looking, right? Like,
So you're hiring.
hiring, if anyone's out there listening that knows bookkeeping. And it's tough, because I always say, if I didn't have a team to manage and it was just me and I could do all the work, I'd take over the world, right? Because I don't have to
Sure.
worry about managing a team. But I know I'm doing it right. I'm not doing it perfectly, but I know I'm doing it right, because I've had these 2 long-term people who hold me accountable in my leadership, right? So it's always a two-way street. I keep it a two-way street.
I'm
Well,
wondering.
what mindset is it that you would say, as a founder, you are looking for on your team? Like, what sets your culture?
Oh, great question. I just had this conversation with a recruiter yesterday. A go-getter, a curious learner, especially in technology, because we're technology driven. In fact, AI is probably going to take over the accounting industry, right? So I'm like, we have to find ways to set ourselves apart. Somebody who can be customer facing, who will go out and try to find the answer before, coming to me and saying, can you help me with this? Like a self-learner, obviously someone who's technically sound. But, all those things of, like, the biggest thing that comes back to me is just being a self-starter, a go-getter, curious, just being curious.
They got to want a challenge. They got to like a challenge.
Yes.
You want to be high on wants a challenge, because people who are high on wants a challenge, they get curious because they know they don't know and they want to find out what's next. Like, what's the next step?
I always say, like, a life learner, right? I'm a life learner, hence why I'm, like, constantly coming to your awesome workshops and things. I want a life learner. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I heard the other major theme was, and we're talking Harrison lingo because that's where we bake stuff in, but like takes initiative. Somebody that's going to, like, on their own, moves forward on their own, likes to be a self-starter, as you said, and sees a problem early, engages it early, engages new ways of thinking about it, i.e. curiosity, either from you or from external resources. But that's like, those are big.
Totally.
Well, and even just to offer, as Dan was saying, you're hiring, and then you said, anybody that knows finance, let me know. But it's also, it seems like to you, or maybe let me ask a question. Would you rather have someone that had those 2 characteristics and then you could help them learn the finance, or someone that's really great at finance and you would help them learn those 2 characteristics?
Oof. I think you could teach finance, but you can't teach those characteristics. Right. And that's what I think. I think you
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can, because I think that's sort of, maybe could be learned, but a lot of it, I don't know. To me, it's
if you think about it, maturity is expensive.
Maturity's I got to write that one down.
Yeah, it's perfect. And those who are mature, when I meet somebody who's mature, I wonder, what have they been through? What have they navigated that has stopped those before them? And they're able to stand where others turn away, walk, or fold, right? And there's something that they've obviously navigated that has drawn out of them a sense of possibility in the midst of this chaos, that they're able to continue in the face of the unknown in a way that brings forth what matters most to them. That's not easy. But when I'm listening to you talk, that's what I hear. Is that
cool? Yeah.
And I know it's not easy to find. We talk about this regularly because our work has a lot of heat in it, as you know. There's a lot of,
I know firsthand.
Yeah, and so if you fold early, then you're just gonna.
The Revenant Process is like nothing Adrian said.
It's an accelerant. I like that. Yeah, like gasoline on a fire.
Yes, a little lighter fluid on that shit. Let's go.
Yeah,
so Nesha, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, what I hear you saying is that, the challenges that people have faced and overcome or engaged in before they came to you is really valuable. And that maturity comes out of that. And I think that's a really interesting idea. This being the Naked Leadership podcast, Nesha, I'm interested to know, is there a time that sticks out to you in your leadership or your being a company founder where you just missed it?
Oh yeah.
I was in Austin for South by Southwest at one of our clients' activations, and they did a segment in the evening called Founder Fuck Ups, and it was a room full of mostly tech founders, and they all got up and they told stories about moments that they missed it in their leadership, in their company founding, and it is a really connecting experience. So I'd love to hear it if anything sticks out to you.
Oh yeah, I mean, and this is a big thing for me. I am a high achiever / I have very, very high standards for myself. Just high standards in general. Hence why I'm probably still single. But I have super high standards. And
maybe. And would you like to explore what else is possible in that context?
You're going to get us all going at once here.
I know.
We're 2 days out of a training, so we're pretty peaked up over here. It's pretty tuned in.
I project those high standards, okay, on everybody. And I've had to reel myself back. So I've had 2 instances, in fact, in the last 2 years, maybe in the last 2 years, where I've made a couple of hires, and I trained them. Like I train everybody, and I thought, okay, I trained you, off on your own, go, shoo, you're ready to go, don't bother me, right? And they both failed miserably. So I had to, and not only did they fail miserably, I had to take responsibility for the fact that I didn't train them well enough, potentially, right? Or I wasn't a good enough support for them, right? And the reason I know this to be true is because both of these people, and the only 2 people in my history of owning my company, left me with really hurtful and sharp words about what a shitty leader I was and how I didn't support women and all the negative things, right? And I just took it. I had to take it. And I was distraught for days. And I went to my leadership team and I said, am I these things? Oh my God, I am these things. Could I be these things? But it was a big slap in the face to me because, my high expectations could have potentially led to, they probably had some deficiencies themselves, but to have 2 people in the same year say very similar things to me really was a jolt. Like, whoa, what am I doing or not doing, right, as a leader that is creating these feelings on the other side?
What did you discover in that?
With?
Yeah.
Know me a quote.
I came up with the fact that I need to do a better job of supporting and maybe even vetting, right? Initially vetting, because I tend to give people chances that aren't ready necessarily, but I'm like, I'll bring them in and I can help them and I can coach them and mentor them. But then they get in and I'm like, don't bother me. Right. So I learned that I need to spend.
What do you think the conversation behind "Don't Bother Me" is?
Ooh, what is the conversation? Well, for me, it's like I have shit to do. You can't don't distract me. I got to be over here doing this stuff, and I'm on a vision and I'm on a mission, and what I don't realize is these people are supposed to be helping me with my vision and mission, right? And if they're not successful, then I can't get to that place. And so I'm not sure what the story is. What is the story? Do you know?
I have a question. What if, how could they be a manifestation of your vision? It occurs to me you don't see them as the vision because you distinguish between the vision and them. But what if they were the vision? What might show up?
Well, in my opinion, they'd have to be part of the vision because I can't get to my vision without.
No, I don't mean part of the vision. They are the vision.
Oh, they are the vision.
Yeah, let's say they're your customer.
Okay.
Now, so the distinction here is they're your customer, not your tool.
Oh, they're my customer, not my tool. Ooh, okay.
Because it's very easy as an entrepreneur. I don't mean that in any derogatory sense because I know and love you very much. But it happens for me as well. any entrepreneur, the ability to make somebody a tool is quick because I look beyond them to what I say the vision is, which is more conceptual and anchored in results rather than in the way I'm relating or my relatedness to the people I'm standing with. So that's really what I'm asking. Is like, if I'm clear about who that I am with them, then that's going to generate a whole new possibility for both of us, both the individual and us as a team going forward.
Wow.
It's a very different interaction.
I feel like I'm getting coached here and I don't even know it. It's funny that you say, it's interesting that you say that, because now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, if I had looked at those two women as my customer in the vision, my interaction with them would have been completely different. It would have been one of nurturing, one of, hey, let me be patient with you. Let me give you more grace because, we're all in this together in this vision.
Well, and the standard could be held high because you get the value of it to them as people and as the vision. Like, this is where we want to get up to. So now you can actually even be harder on the problem and still stand shoulder to shoulder with them. Because you get that this is going to, they're achieving that is going to, it has implications way beyond you.
Wow.
For your business, in the community, because my experience of you is you're committed to making a huge difference. Every time we talk, I get that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
Every time.
For sure. But those are my two big things that I will not, it was like, ooh, ouch. It was like ouch moments,
Yeah.
Well,
I've had a few of those. So like I said, maturity is expensive.
Yeah. Well, and I'm excited and not surprised that, when you got that feedback, which hurts in the moment, it usually hurts just means it's outside of my own view of myself.
Yeah.
Or like the space that I give myself to be as complex that I am is what I really mean. Like, I can be a big gift to people and I can be a selfish prick. And pretty much minute by minute, those options are on the table. Like, I can be really kind and loving and steamroll right over people 1 second later. It's just odd. And
I love when you do that. I'm like, here he comes. Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Here he is. Watch the brow will tell you where I'm going. Anyway, but the fact that you would have that moment and then go back to your team and say, hey, have you guys seen me like this? Because that takes courage to go find out what's so, even if it's like quote unquote bad news. It takes a lot of courage to do that, and that's you actually being what I hear you saying. You're calling people into being, which is to be curious and to have this growth mindset and to always be this lifelong learner. And that's an opportunity to. I mean, mature. I love Dan's maturity is expensive.
Well,
that's an opportunity to get a return on pain. Most people are going to run from pain and not want to get a return. But if I go learn something, I've got a huge return. I haven't wasted the pain.
Well, you did it right here. Even
the
way you received the possible feedback I gave you. Like I said, what if this was it? You were so open to looking where it might be true. Not that it's always true. Not that it's ubiquitous, but that there was this time and here's, oh, wow, I never thought of that. I mean, just your willingness to look is, it's just inspiring.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's related to impact too. For me, Nesha, as you talk about the impact that you want to make out in the world and with women, we don't know the impact we're making unless we go and find out. We ask people and we're willing to see what we actually created. And that's what that's what one thing that I'll also praise you on is that it seems so baked into your bones to go find out if you're creating the impact that you say you want to make.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, for sure.
So what's the greatest lesson you've learned in your leadership as a founder?
To have patience, to give grace, to always be seeking internally, like, how can I go inside? Like, I go inside first. How can I improve myself first, right, as a leader? Because I always say this, I say, unless you are healed or healing or, doing the work inside, you can't be a good leader, right? Because it's like hurt people or whatnot, right? So like, I want to continue to do the work inside so that I'm standing strong in leadership and able to lead people. Like how can you lead people if you can't lead yourself?
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get what you mean by that. And how can you lead people? You could just lead them really poorly.
Or that. Yeah.
That's kind of, how do I lead people? If I don't lead myself, I'm just like generating. I mean, we're naturally, I think always, but we could test that out.
Yeah.
Naturally generating outside of ourselves what we're generating internally. I think there's this like, this is very permeable existence we've got. Like we are one with what's going on. Intention equals impact. Like, so if I'm not, and for most, I mean, humanity, I mean, all of us, including the guy talking, like, the inside world is a scary place.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying, like, I hear you taking on, I think, the really courageous act, which is, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm looking in the mirror before I go out smacking people around. Let me go ahead and take a look at myself and see, how am I complicit? Am I doing what I'm calling them to do? And what can I do? The whole, let me own my own shit. Let me take care of, I mean, if I'm a lead, people like to, in a therapeutic context, talk about staying in your lane or staying on your side of the fence. But if it's my business, I own the whole block. So whatever's on over all the fences, that's all mine. Now I'm going to take care of my yard first, and then I'm coming into your yard. You know why? Because your yard's my yard, and that one next to that yard's also my yard. So but making sure you take care of your yard first. That's what I hear. That's part of the maturity Dan's talking about, and to be able to take that on, that's a lifelong venture.
It is, and
yep.
That was born out of a nervous breakdown I had 7 years ago, what I call my rock bottom years, the desert years. And it resulted in my son, who is, my heart, my entire world, moving out of my house into his father's, and he never came back, right? Quote unquote, never came back.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had that breakdown, it was a result of being an entrepreneur and being a single mom, and I couldn't, I was lashing out at everybody. So much to the point that I drove my own son out of my home. And so it was out of that experience of rock bottom that I went on this mission of, okay, I got to fix myself. And I think sometimes people have to get to a rock bottom. I don't know, but I feel like sometimes people have to get to a rock bottom before they say, whoa, what is going on in me? Like, I gotta fix whatever this is.
Yeah, it's like, I don't like what I have, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Right.
Or
I don't like who I am. Like, who am I? Yeah.
I think all of us on this call can share those moments in our own lives, can't we?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's start a church called Rock Bottom.
Oh, yeah. The only church I want to go to.
That's right.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Nesha, give us the juicy stuff. As we wrap up this conversation, you've been so generous, so open, willing. That's how I've always experienced you.
Mm-hmm.
Love having conversation with you. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see business owners and company founders make in their finances?
Well, number one, not knowing their numbers, right? That's the big one, not knowing their numbers. Number two, not having the right foundation in place. And that foundation equals, having access to a good attorney, a good accountant, an insurance broker, like creating a team as you build your foundation. So many business owners want to go from 0 to 100, and they're out here already. And it's like, whoa, until they get into trouble. And then they're like, ooh, I need an attorney or I need an accountant. Still not sure. So really creating the foundation, right? I think that you have to start with a solid foundation. And I don't see a lot of people, they're building their business on sand. But I kind of want to take a second, you guys, to turn this on you and share an experience that just happened. As a result,
please. Okay.
As a result of meeting you and knowing you and learning from you, I met you guys back in February 2022 at an event you host, the Impact Series in Nashville. I was one of the lucky people who applied and got in. And I met you there. And then you lit a fire under me. You set seeds under me at that. And then I wanted more, and I came to the Revenant Process in June of that year. And I learned more. And the one thing I told Dan that really has stuck out with me and has lived with me is when you guys said that you have to have a vision big enough to be called through the pain of transformation, right? The pain of life, the pain of growth. And that always stuck with me. And so when I walked into the Impact series and I wrote down my vision, which was really big, it was, I want to be a professional speaker. And the holy grail of being a professional speaker, I want to be an international speaker, right? And this was like over a year ago. And through all of that,
I actually remember you. I remember you talking about being an international speaker,
right?
When you came out of the training,
and right, and it was like, okay, this is way out here. This is like way out here. You know, I'm not like Ali or Oprah or somebody where like I have like no one knows me, so I need to make myself known, and I need to be I got to work at it. I got to do the work. I got to keep at it because this is my vision, and I'm not giving up. And so, you know, I spent the last year working on the craft, pitching, blind pitching. Not a whole lot of luck. I've gotten some little things around Charlotte, which is great. And I found a conference my cousin told me about in London, a women's conference, the biggest women's conference in London, a year ago. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go find who the event planner is. I'm going to pitch. I pitched. I got crickets. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to wait. They probably have their speakers this year. I'm going to wait until the end of the year. So I'm in front of their face. So December comes around, I pitch again, and I'm like, dang, you know, crickets. And I'm like, that was stupid because it's the holidays. Who cares about a conference, right? And so I was like, okay, the year turns, I'm in tax season, and I'm like, I'm going to get through tax season, and I'm going to go back to this conference. And I go to their website, and I'm like, oh, they listed their dates for 23. So I'm going to pitch again, and I'm going to try it a little differently. Guys, I woke up yesterday morning. I woke up to an email response that said, we would love to have you speak to our audience. We think this topic would be great. Send us your bio and your high-res picture. Can't wait to work with you. I literally froze and stared at this email because this was not a possibility for me before I met you. And I want to give you credit where credit is due because you have inspired me, and I know the people in that room, to have a huge vision and to go for it. And now, because of you, as being part of my journey, I am going to live out my biggest dream of dreams.
Wow. That's so awesome.
My
That's
biggest
incredible.
dream awesome. Of dreams. Like I bypassed the US. I am going straight to the UK.
Go, girl, go.
That's great.
You planted the seed in me that there are possibilities, and like, who cares? Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, keep going for it. I think it's also part of your story is like, keep going for it. Like, you know, don't just gesture at it. Like, be committed to it. And then, okay, that didn't work. Let me go again. Oh, that didn't work. Let me go again. Oh, that didn't work. Let me go again. That's amazing. I can't wait. I mean, tell everybody who's listening what the conference is.
The conference is Karen Brady's Women in Business and Tech. And I think Karen Brady she's a baroness in the House of Parliament. And then she's also like on The Apprentice UK. And so she's very big on women in business and pushing the bills forward to help women and the pay gap and whatever else is going on over there. So I think this is her 4th year holding this conference, but it's like the biggest conference for women in business, like business ownership, corporate, tech. Amazing. Women. And I get to do a seminar there. This is like the holy grail of dreams. And you set the seed in me in Impact Series in February of 22, and I have not stopped. I have not given up.
That's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Nesha. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We're excited. Yeah.
That's awesome. When does it happen?
The conference is in October, mid-October.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I got the email yesterday, which was so timely in having this conversation with you right now. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, it was no mistake that that happened yesterday, and then we also had you on tax day. That's just weird.
That is weird.
Nesha, thank you for your generosity and for your presence and openness in this conversation. I have no doubt that what it's like to be in a room with you or what experience you is relayed in this conversation. You've been so fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the honor. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll link to everything in the show description, but if there's a single place you want people to connect with you, or if there's anything you produce that you put out that you want people to check out, tell them.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually just came out with my very affordable and accessible Finance 101 course for entrepreneurs because it's so affordable and accessible. I wanted everybody to have access so that they can empower themselves in knowing their numbers. So I'd love to send you the link to that. And
please do.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Okay, we'll link that in the show notes. Thanks, Nesha.
Thank you, Nesha.
Nesha, you're awesome. See you soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Well, my friends, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Naked Leadership Podcast. As a heads up, every Friday we post a Cliff Notes version of that week's conversation with all the highlights in under 5 minutes. Check that out for a quick and powerful reminder of the principles discussed. I hope this conversation has been valuable to you. If it has, the greatest compliment you could pay us is sharing it with somebody who could use it. Thanks so much for listening, and until next week, bye-bye, everybody.